Greetings. This is Graham Warren working with you on the Neighbors Coffee Shop case. This is a real coffee shop located in Woodley Gardens in Rockville, Maryland. It opened in the fall of 2025. The owners are Spencer Trock and Lulu Parajuli, both of whom have MBAs from the University of Maryland. This case deals with tension in between artisanal craft, making coffee, extraordinary coffees by hand, and operational efficiency. So we're going to be interested in two pieces here: the customer experience, the CX, and the employee experience, EX, that arise from design choices like menu engineering, the design language of the store, staffing, and general philosophy for how the store should operate. Right, so here's a look from the back of the store to the door. This is where the prep occurs. These are customers here. There's now a large roaster that's taken up space in the front of the store. There's seating down this wall. Folks place the orders up front here. We're going to do two sets of analysis. The first involves queuing models, using queuing theory to assess operation of a store like this with pure online orders. So we'll take the ordering process essentially away from the baristas, and then we'll do a breakout to discuss solutions and ideas for the redesign of the store, new menu, perhaps new design language, and so forth. And then there'll be a submission that you can where you can lean on an AnyLogic queuing model for the analysis. So that'll be a sort of a more detailed, richer analysis in the second phase. Some of these conversations, I've had multiple conversations with Spencer, and thank him for those. He was a guest speaker in the class early in spring 1, 2026. The design language is built around the Neighbors theme, so it's not minimalistic in any sense. It's got sort of very, very warm. There's potted plants in there. There's a living canopy effect, and there's a cheerful color palette. Want to just footnote all this conversation by observing that Spencer and Lulu are very thoughtful and active in pursuing different business ideas with this coffee shop. It's changed from being just providing coffee to being having a significant roasting component. So some of this description may be changing as we go. Good to observe that the cafe really is alive. So let's have a look at some of the. So here's the location. It's the end unit in this Woodley Gardens sort of like strip mall area. They're located here. They do not have the upstairs. That's a dentist's office, I believe. This was formerly a bank space, so there's a drive-through, but they're not allowed to use the drive-through as a drive-through, as a pure drive-through. On so-called run days where they basically host a fun run, they have food trucks that line the space so folks can do their run, do a cold plunge, buy some food, buy a coffee. I believe the coffees are free on run day, but there's a big following. So here's the front door. You can see the location here. That's the coffee shop in the end unit. Here's Interstate 270. There's a sort of a public sports complex across the way here, a couple of baseball fields, some tennis courts, playground. There's overflow parking in the middle here. I'll show you that in a minute. And then there's some hiking trails around here as well that one can enjoy. So this is a better look at the actual mall. Parking here and around the perimeter, and then there's some overflow parking in that parks area. And then on run days, folks park into the neighborhood, so all along Nelson and further along. Some population estimates, demographic estimates for a 1, 3, and 5 mile radius. This is from 2024 with some estimates for 2029. You can read some information about Spencer and Lulu. Here is their winter menu from 2026, and their summer menu, they preferred cold beverages, which are easier to make in the summer, and some really, awesome offerings here. This is a look from the other direction, from the door, more or less. So here is the prep area. This is the seating area here. They're placing orders about here, and this is a line of customers looking for beverages. This is a look at the drive-through window looking out. They've just got some espresso bars sitting in the window space. They're not allowed to use that, can't sell coffee through that window. Then I've got a table here showing quite a lot of different coffee options, drip coffee, espresso. So this would include regular lattes. If they make those specialty lattes or specialty drinks, seasonal drinks, they'd be put in here. So the cold beverages would, of course, be cold brews or nitro cold brews. And I don't have information specifically for that, for the seasonal variant of the cold brews. So you just work with cold brew or nitro. But this basically lays out a few things. Baristas are involved in producing each of these beverages for some time, and then there could also be a non-labor component where coffee is filtering, dripping, something like this, where you press the button on a drip coffee machine. There's a labor component to press it and to pour the coffee, but while it's actually brewing, you're not involved. So this recognizes time that it involves the barista and time that doesn't. And then there's a current order probability, and you'll see some of these items are zeros, so they would not be on the menu at the time. You're going to have the option in the second part of the exercise to think about what offerings you would like to put on the menu to craft a new menu. You've also got a sense of the labor intensity and the description here. So there's a sort of an immediate and obvious tension here. Some of the more elaborate beverages, definitely a market for hot coffees in the winter, but they are more labor intensive, and so that would put a hit on the baristas. And between the beverage production, which is artisanal, and them engaging with the customers because of this neighbors sort of operational ethos, couldn't put real pressure on the baristas. So just some examples here: nitro cold brew, mocha pot, French press, Turkish Chesve, AeroPress. There are descriptions of each of these coffee processes in the appendix. Here's another look at the prep area. It's really a small shop, right? It's 900 square feet. And then we've got sort of a corresponding table for tea. Regular tea, matcha, hot tea, qigong, fucha, tea espresso. Put your tea leaves in the espresso machine. And some process notes you can look through. There's questions for the owners around this tension between artisanal and efficiency. We want to protect your employees. You want to offer customers a super experience, how to staff, how to design the menu to make this all happen. So what's the ask here? There are two parts, Neighbors 1 and Neighbors 2. In the first part, we're going to strip down our coffee operation. We're going to assume that all orders are online. Last time I was in Neighbors, which was a few months ago, and certainly the last time I talked to Spencer, his view was that may still be that he does not want online orders. He thinks it'll sort of destroy the atmosphere in Neighbors. But we are going to analyze the operation without any ordering process. So just assume 100% instantaneous orders, so there's no barista involvement as the first part. The deliverable on that is a cheat sheet. And you've got some formatting requirements here. Order times is 0. And we want you to look at the operation from the perspective of the 4 lenses. utilization matters, pooling matters, variance hurts, and psychology matters. So analyze the utilization using the queuing spreadsheet. I'll show you the queuing model. You could also use sort of the basic queuing models, the calculators that are provided at your option. So analyze various arrival rates, base case of 40 per hour up to 200 per hour on run club days. I think it's probably higher than that for a limited period of hours, because I have had SMS exchanges with Spencer at the end of those days, and folks are the baristas are ready to lie on the floor basically, and compute the appropriate service rate for the GGK model, using the current menu mix provided. Those are those default probabilities, and then one proposed menu. So you get to decide what you would offer, calculate the associated numbers for that, and then run your GGK analysis. Then we want to investigate the effect of pooling with two work assignment strategies. So suppose each new order goes to sort of the next barista in rotation, sort of a round robin type setup. What we do is assume that the arrival traffic is equally split amongst the baristas. You get to decide how many there should be. And the alternative to that is having a pooled queue where there's a single line. This is how it really operates. But we also want to provide in the cheat sheet guidance for those folks who, where the traffic is split and each barista owns their own queue. We're going to just assume that it looks the same for each of the baristas. All right, so round robin versus pooled. We will also consider two variance cases. So the full variance that you're seeing in the tables, I've just previously shown. And then let's suppose that additional training and perhaps automation is implemented and you're able to have the variance. What does the performance look like, in that context? And then finally, propose some red lines to keep the baristas sort of below burnout level utilization. So this is a couple pages. You can use the GGK model or the Google Sheet, and I will elaborate those in a subsequent clip. The second part is we're going to have those cheat sheets in hand. Already have some thoughts about how to set this thing up, but at least have one proposed menu change to see how that does impact or not the CX and the EX. We'll then do a peer discussion, and you'll also be working at that time with the AnyLogic simulation model that's provided. So it's pre-built. You don't have to build your own model. And in fact, it's highly recommended you don't try and build a model because it takes quite some time. What you want to do there is essentially replicate the analysis, but with an ordering process in place and using AnyLogic. So you're going to get much more refined estimates. So you're going to then revise the menu, revise the design language using GenAI, so you can come up with some sort of alternative look and feel for the store. And we want you to estimate these KPIs, the costs. You're now able to get the 95th percentile customer waiting times from the simulation tool, from the histograms, and then we want a contrast of the CX and the EX before and after. All right, so here are the tools. You got some references you can poke around in, and then you've got the beverage descriptions for coffee and for tea, and that's the case. All right, so in the next clip, we'll look at the first part one, neighbors one, and looking to see how we might set this up with a GGK queuing analysis or with the provided Google Sheet.